Well, welcome everyone to week 2 of WNRC, Wednesday Night Referees Club. It's good to have you all here. Thanks you all for attending. Those that attended last week, what a treat. One of those things that kind of got me through my week. And as Alan said a little earlier, we should have been at camp right now, and instead I got to mow my lawn. So this was a treat. And Scott, I know you're here. Thank you for last week, and we're excited for this week as well. Just to remind everyone, you'll see on the screen, assuming that there we go. The reason we're all here is just to get better. With a lack of opportunities this summer, thanks to COVID and other things, this is just an opportunity for us to get better. And I appreciate y'all taking the time out of an evening to do so. This week's quote of the week comes from last week. So we're going to kind of stack some pancakes here, as a Wyoming pro player, Brett Kiesel, once said. And this was something that resonated with me from last week that Scott said, and it's don't just be an official, learn how to officiate. And that's what we're hoping to do with these, and as we continue on and hopefully do some ball this season. With that, I want to introduce this evening's guest speaker, Joel Wetzel. Love that picture, partly because it's Baylor that he's hollering at, because my CEO is a Baylor grad, and so every time they lose, it makes me smile just a little bit. But you can see his credentials there, and they don't need any introduction. So just thrilled that he'd take the time and share with us and get something out of it, especially for those of us that spend some time in the deep. So what we'll do is Joel's got some things prepared, and we'll take some Q&A as well. And just like last week, if you'll use the chat box function to throw your questions out, that'll be good for me. I'll keep a queue, and we'll go from there. But the other thing I would say is if you go kind of to the top right corner, you'll see the option to change to a speaker view instead of a gallery view. And so instead of looking at 20 ugly mugs, you can look at one. And with that, Joel, would you like me to start with the slides? Or would you just like?
Yeah, sure. If you want to go to the next one, that's great.
Yep.
Well, first of all, Tyler, thanks for having me. I've gotten to meet a lot of Wyoming guys because of, AB's clinic and the Front Range. I kind of grew up like you guys, being a road warrior out in West Texas. Didn't have mountains and snow except for in crazy northern winds blowing in. But, starting off saying we owe it to the kids and getting better, to steal guy from Kansas's quote, being quick. He used to always say, get better. I call it GB. And then I wanted to build off what Novak said about officiating. It is about how to officiate, but it's a ongoing process. It's always little details. We'll go into that. Being the Baylor photo, that kid it was his second targeting, so he had to sit out. I had the first. I always have claim to fame. A couple guys on here will tell you that I'm a trendsetter sometimes when I don't need to be. But that kid, that was his second targeting for the year, and he had to sit out the following game, and I think the next half a game or something like that from last year's rule change. But that being said, I'm sitting over there and just like, I'm sorry, man, but he ducked his head. But I really just wanted everybody's going to get something out of this because it's 5-man mechanics. I was on the road a lot. Sometimes I worked 4-man mechanics like you guys did, had to drive 2 to 4 hours to a game. So I commend all of y'all. Number one, y'all are all trying to get better, GB. And the little things that are going to matter. And so with that being said, I just kind of want to go over fundamentals from the deep side, but also it ties into really the 4 guys that work the majority of the game. There's 2 guys, and I included one of my obviously all-time favorite H's that I was on a crew with for a year, and I was a side judge, and he's on here. His name's Trip Sutter, longtime Division I official and great guy. So I included him. But that being said, those 2 guys work the majority of the game. Umpire and referee look real pretty, and then the bag judge gets the ESPN time. So that being said, we can go to the next one. I just want to kind of go over some of those things that hopefully everybody will get something out of that. And then I want to do a lot of, Q&A. So the first thing I did is, what do you got to do on and off the field, right? And you got to make a commitment. I mean, you guys are all committed. I mean, y'all are in Wyoming, and guys like y'all are doing it because, you know, you could probably make $45 and do volleyball and not have to travel very far. You know, you can stay in that area. No offense to any volleyball officials if you're in there, but it's probably the easiest paycheck in the world. So, but you know, you're still officiating. But that being said, y'all have made that commitment. You also got to be mentally and physically tough, because what we do, nobody understands. Y'all all have the love for the game, is my opinion. Um, and the little details in that are, we got to start the game and finish the game for the kids, and we owe it to them, because the fourth quarter really counts. So that being said, anybody has any questions or wants to chime in, you know, please do so. So you got to be physically tough. You guys are already pretty tough because you're in Wyoming, but you got altitude. You got a few other things up there that y'all deal with: long trips, flat tire, and you just got to be able to do that. So therefore, you got to have good communication with your crew, and communication's key. You know, last week we went over it with Novak. He's got to know things. The wing guy's got to know things, and you've got to be able to communicate on the field, off the field, during the game, during pregame. So, and communication's also body language. You know, what you look like. Are y'all sitting there chewing the fat in the end zone pregame? Or are you actually working the pregame field? You know, are you having a couple calls with guys during the week, or, you know, drinking a beer saying, hey, you know, I know you guys are in long distances, but, and crew up. I mean, you're not a designated crew. Is that right? Still, Tyler, y'all are all kind of like I grew up. You had a mixed match of whoever you got. So, you know, I challenge all of y'all. The little thing is to be a good communicator, and doing that is going to help you with your, you know, somebody's going to request you. You may have a white hat that says, hey, I need a good head linesman, or, you know, who do you know? And somebody's going to do their talk, you know, you're talking for you, and say, hey, you know, pick up Novak on this next game, because he, you know, he's a good hand. So, you know, y'all ride a lot of miles, so you got to want to get along, right? So you got to have good communication, be a good crewmate. So, and then all the coaches talk about communication, consistency, and that goes on and off the field. The consistency factor, I really challenge everybody. If you're not very good at something, you got to be honest with yourself. And so I got taught by a guy that he always told me, you know, he was an African-American gentleman, and he always told me, don't go digging for no boogers. You know, you're going to need to communicate. You're going to have to be consistent. And you're going to have to have good forward progress. And most people don't think you're going to have good forward progress, but you're going to need it on the field and off the field. And I'm a big believer in give him that extra half yard. Tripp's a hell of a wing guy. You know, he can tell you a little bit more about that coming up. But I tell you, if you give him a little more of it versus less, coaches are always going to respect that. And then on and off the field, you got to be a professional. We were putting on a clinic down here at Rice for all the local high school guys, and they gave us their R room, which wasn't much, you know, back in the 70s, it was a real nice room. But now it's not much. They got all these new electronic gates, and we were sitting there, and 3 guys show up, and they're trying to get in the security system. You know, they start barking orders at the lady, and we're the football officials. We're going to the R room. And, you know, that's not being a professional. So I always, you know, you guys probably don't have that problem in the sense of being professional, because y'all are doing it because you love it. But just remember, you never know who's listening. So be a professional, be somebody that's forthright and a good standing, which I know pretty much everybody in Wyoming, you know, you need help. And if you're not very good at being a good steward, you're going to wind up not getting any help when you really need it. So I don't think y'all have that problem, but there's a lot of places in the United States in officiating that has that problem. They're not very professional sometimes. But then listening, observing, you know, like I said, watch your mouth and have a great attitude. You never know who's there. You never know who's watching over your shoulder. I was lucky enough to pick up a game in Division I because the supervisor was behind me, and he asked me a couple questions. I didn't even know who it was, and I answered him honestly. And next thing I know, I get a game. So you never know. So that being said, be accountable. You already know that where y'all are at. Confidence, not arrogance. And then working through your early year preparation. I learned this from Walt working for him. He's like, just tweak week to week, tweak week to week. If you've got, a 3 yards and a cloud of dust team versus down here in Texas, it's all spread offenses and wide open and, 5 receivers wide, twins, one back set. Sometimes they'll go on a wishbone, double flankers. You never know what you're going to see, but if you know how to prepare and you do it all year long, staying in shape, all those little things, and tweak week to week, you'll be one of the guys that white hat or that assigning secretary is going to want, assigning you at playoff time. So does anybody have any questions or want to add stuff or kind of drill down? Those are just kind of bullet points. This way y'all can kind of, if you have a crewmate or a rookie, I try to design it to where it's rookie all the way to a vet. So anybody got any questions on that?
Anyone out there, feel free to chime in real quick.
Great thing about Wyoming, they don't ask a lot of questions. They just do, right?
Fire, what are
I
you
got
thinking?
one.
Go with it.
All right. So you said give them the extra half yard, maybe if applied. Don't be afraid to give that half yard in the middle of the field. What about on the goal line? Do you give the benefit of the doubt that the tip of the ball cracked the plane of the goal line?
Well, my high school careers, I was an H, but we got one of the best wing guys in the country. What do you think? What do you think, Tripp?
Well, it's a great question. It all depends upon what level you are not. Level's not the right, but if you have replay, not replay, and all that sort of stuff. And Joel, I even have to give you credit on something for once. I think the kid makes a great play, and if you want to see that ball across the goal line, right? That's what you want to do. And if you can't, then you got to run in there and you got to go find the football. And if your umpire maybe could possibly help you, it is what it is around the goal line. That's just kind of my perspective. But you want to reward good plays, but he's got to earn it. So, it's hard at the high school level. It's extremely hard because you only have 5 guys out there, and you're never going to have the perfect view. So I know that's kind of like dancing around it, but you want to see the football over the goal line. That's kind of what you have to do.
So the other thing that I'll add is what Tripp's alluding to is, and probably what Novak will allude to is, whatever level you're at, this goes back to the little thing of officiating. They pay you to officiate the game. They don't pay you to worry about things. You got to make a call, make a call. If it's that's why we try to start stuff on a line. I know up in Wyoming, the elk may have eaten the line. So you gotta make a guess. So you just got to make a call. Don't be demonstrative about it. Just do it. If it's at the goal line and I see the surge and I see the bodies lie, you're going to say, Coach, you want me to take that away from you if it's that tight? But you got to make sure you got 2 partners over there. And if it's a bag judge, you got to try to make really sure, right? So that being said, you just got to make sure that partner knows. You got to communicate with him. Hey, look, I told him this, and that's part of the communication and those little unspoken rules that you do. So you drill down here in a little bit, it's going to be into credibility or liability. That builds that credibility with that coach. That credibility, the coach say, Coach, I got to be honest with you. When I saw it, it's in the end zone. I'm not taking that play away from that kid. That kid made a play. The defensive man made a hell of a play, but when he turned, I saw him at the last second stick the ball out and punch it. So Same thing with a first down. You know, Tripp had a hell of a play at the goal line this year. And, you know, you just get paid to officiate, period. That's what it's all about. You know, I called a touchdown from 3 yards in the end zone as a back judge in a bowl game, and everybody ripped me up and down. But I'm sitting there, I knew I was on TV, and I had to have an opinion, waiting on my side judge, waiting on my field judge. And I'm like, well, I'm going to go up, and I turn and look. And I had a rule, and this is a little thing that may help you guys. Tripp and I had this when we worked the same sideline together. I told him if I looked at him, that means I was working touchdown, period. If I looked at him, I got a touchdown or I was going up. But, you know, if you're conferring, you know, the old punch when the linesman's running down the sideline, and, you know, that's what our mechanic was. The head linesman or the line judge pushed forward to tell the back judge he's in if he was tight roping. Same thing here. You know, you got to make a call. You know, you may earn your $60 on that call and get thrown out of there, no popcorn and no burrito or no, you know, sausage link or that elk jerky you thought you were going to get after the game. You don't get it. So, you know, that being said,
if it's close, it's close. And I mean, come on, you know, we can all split hairs. What you don't want to do is have the guy crawl in the end zone from the one, go in, and then you ring it up as a touchdown. I mean, I think high school football officiating is the hardest thing to do because your biggest goal is to call everything that grandma can see and then let the game play as it. Everybody's there to watch. It's a play production. So the least amount of you can interject yourself into the game, it's great. So make it what it is. I mean, if it's really super, super close and it looks like and everybody's cheering, I mean, not that you listen and say score, but I mean, just in your brain, sit there and say, okay, I think he's in, boom, let's go up with it. Or I know that he's short, and I don't care if it's 6 inches. I know he's short. I'm going to go put him short. And you have to believe in yourself and just know that, you know, I see it. Clearly, I see the ball. I see him down. He's short of the goal line. You know, you're going to put him down. If it's just right there, bang, bang, and we're talking like millimeters.
Are you that good? Yeah.
Confident, man. You're going to be right either way. So, yeah.
And Joel, if I may add, there as an official, we need to understand there are parts of the field where we can be approximate, and then there's an area of the field we need to be exact.
Yep.
We have to sell that. We have to be confident of what we saw in those parts in that part of the field.
Great point, Mike.
Mike,
Hey,
that's
hold on.
great.
Hey, Tyler, can you introduce who that was just a second?
Yeah.
Well, I can introduce myself.
Yeah, do it, Mike.
Please do.
Good evening, gentlemen. I'm Mike Contreras from Denver, Colorado. I was blessed with 17 years of Division I football, and I had the opportunity to work with each of the three that have been mentioned, Mr. Wetzel, Mr. Sutter, and Mr. Novak, during my career. I left the field this year, and I am now the coordinator of football officiating for the Division II Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference here in the Colorado, Nebraska, New Mexico, and South Dakota area. But I'm very happy that I was invited by Alan and Tyler, and really impressed with the turnout that you have here this evening and the individuals that you're bringing on to make presentations. Good job, gentlemen.
Mike,
And
thank
Mike's
you
one
for
of the
joining.
best
Go
human
ahead, Joel.
beings on the planet, bar none.
What?
I said, Mike, you're one of the best men on the planet, to say the least.
Thank you, sir.
What other questions, Tyler? You had a couple?
Yeah, there's a couple in the queue. We can either save them or use them. It's up to you.
No, so I just want to, I mean, you know, I hope, guys, these are just bullet points that you can have. Rookies, you have to have the things that are on this list. It goes back to what Novak said last week. If you want to be an official, you got to learn how to officiate. You can't be a machine. You can't be, you know, mechanical. It's an art, and you've got to learn how to stroke the brush however you do it, you know. So just these are great just bullet points so that if you've got these fundamentals just on and off the field, you're going to be dangerous.
I got a back judge question for you.
Sure.
Catch, no catch.
It's coming up.
Okay. I'll
The-
hold that.
So we're going to get to Allen's here in a minute because I've got the fundamentals that you have to have as a back judge, but the bottom line is this, guys. This is all for, there's a bunch of back judge stuff in here, but then it's also for a lot of the regular officials. So I want to go over first pre-snap, post-snap routine. Everybody, R, U, H, L, back judge. If y'all got an auxiliary guy, the clock guys, I don't know if it's local assigning or if it goes to the 3 blind guys that have been there for 37 years. All of those guys are part of the game. Your chain crew, all those kind of things. If you don't have a pre-snap routine, get one. Pre-snap routine for the rookies is learning a checklist. Pilots have it, phenomenal engineers have it. Just as an official, you have to have a pre-snap. I call a post-snap routine too. After the play, I'm pretty ADD. I used to have a signal for everything until Byron Boston broke me of all habits. And he told me, why can't you do that in your head? And I was like, easy enough. I can do it. But as a back judge, if you got 2 running teams and you're sitting there falling yourself to sleep and you won't remember, hey, it's 3rd and 12 in the 4th quarter with 37 seconds together and you think it's going to be a run, you're going to be off. I mean, you better be on your game. You better know the game situation. So pre-snap routine, in my league, we run a lot of spread. They're snapping the ball at 28 seconds. Y'all got the 40-second clock, 2 years ago?
Last year was our first season, Joel.
Yeah. So, y'all are seeing spreads. I'm sure you're seeing, it just depends their talent level. So your pre-snap's going to differ. If you've got 2 running teams that are running the old wishbone and you got a 6-man game that has, you're going to have to switch it up. If it's an 11-man game or a 6-man game, and they've got to have, I think in Federation, you got to have the throw too, from the quarterback to a back before he's eligible or whatever, referee to whatever those rules are. But you've got to be able to adjust that pre-snap routine, post-snap routine is don't look for a ball, let them separate, let the colors separate. Then as a back judge, you need to go down the checklist. Okay, I got to make sure how many subs do I have? Do I have 11? You got to confer. I don't know all the Federation rules, but just make sure you do what you've got to do to adhere to those mechanics. I have that on my personal goals as a crew member. You've got to know those things, and you've got to be good no matter what. Your fundamentals as a back judge and a wing guy that's the off guy on that other side needs to be clock, count, all your keys. So as a back judge, you got to know what keys you're on. You got to know what your line judge and head linesman keys are. And then most importantly, if you can't do clock, count, keys, and dead ball, go be an umpire because you'll lose. If you can't count and you can't get your clock, you will fail miserably. So you've got to be really good at clock, count, keys, and dead ball because your guys are working 90% of the game. The H, the L, those guys are running up and down the field. They're getting their ass chewed on. Whether or not that happens in Wyoming, I don't know. But you're going up and down the field, right? You don't want to give the coaches more ammo for them to yell and scream at. So whatever you do, you better be right on. You better be able to get that communicated from your wing guy. I don't know. In our association in high school, we check off with whoever is on offense is who we double check on keys and on count. So whoever's on offense, I don't know how y'all work it, but be on the same page.
Hey, Joel.
Yeah.
So I just saw somebody, I assume it's back to just talking about the clock. So elaborate more what you're talking about the clock. I mean, I know, just talk more about what you mean by the clock.
Okay, so you've got play clock and game clock.
Okay.
Most of these fields probably in Wyoming's got one clock, and it's usually on the north scoreboard, depending however it is. And in a good norther, you're hoping your ass backs up to it somewhere, back judge. But other than that, you're going to have the play clock. Sometimes you're going to have it on your arm or on the ready ref, and you got to know when to hit 25 or when to hit 40. So for you vets, you got to make sure and tell them, hey, this is what I figured out. I carry an Iron Man, and I've got another Under Armour watch. I've got 2 watches, so I can automatically switch to 25 or 40 if worse comes to worse. And then I'm one of those guys, unfortunately. I've had 3 college football games, and I didn't have a 25-second 40 clock. And I've had to work Bedlam. I had to work TCU Tech. Those aren't fun games. So you got to mentally prepare yourself with no clocks. I had San Diego State and San Jose State in a pouring down rainstorm, no 40-second clock. So you got to be prepared for those things, especially to give Lincoln some credit. We'll go Cody, Wyoming. You never know what's going to happen.
Hey, JW, can I interrupt?
Sure.
Real quick, sorry to. It's a great point. And clock responsibility, I think, comes with everybody. It's not just stuck on the back judge. And I do know, and in high school, you may have one clock situated somewhere, but everybody needs to be peeking at that clock.
Yep.
And I understand it, and Joel's probably talked about it. The back judge goes and talks to the clock operator. If the clock works, I understand. He talks to the clock guy before the game. And, if you get a chance to talk to him, if he's not eating a hot dog or he's still rolling into the stadium, I guarantee he's going to tell you, I've done this for 35 years. I don't have any questions. I know what the hell I'm doing. Get out of here, kid. I don't want to talk to you. Those are usually the ones that you need to be the most leery of, because that's probably where, and it's not an absolute, but you probably are going to have a situation with the clock. So you never would, just like Tripp and Jada were talking about, and Iron Mike were talking about in goal line situations. The clock will get you in trouble if you forget about it. If we lose a couple of seconds, first quarter, 9 minutes left, it's not a big deal. But if we start losing time when the game matters in the fourth, and we just get we're locked in on what we're supposed to do, and now we don't look at the clock, shame on us. So again, like I talked about last week, the referee, your pregame or your pre-snap routine, I'm always checking the clocks. Everybody needs to look at the clocks. Yep. Don't just stick it on the back judge. You don't want to go in and say, okay, Joel, what do you got for the game time? It's not just his responsibility. Yep. He's probably primary for it, but I guarantee you Tripp's probably keeping the time on his wrist, and somebody else has got it. So all 5 guys are responsible for the clock, just not one guy. Yep. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that's what we're for.
Great.
That's and guys, that's crew communication right there. That's the little things. That's the unwritten rules about officials and learning how to officiate. That's why you want to. I miss something, Tripp's got my back. Novak's got my back. Vice versa. I've got Mike's back, or I've got Alan's back. Okay, so the other thing with clocks is there's the axiom of 5 minutes. At 5 minutes, you should automatically have in that pre-snap routine game situation and game awareness is what Walt always called it. Game awareness is I'm inside 5. I got to be extra great on the clock. I got to be extra great on game situations. If it's 3rd and 3 and it's on the 6, I know I got to help my wing guys. You got to have game awareness, clock awareness. And the problem is everybody gets into it, and now you're into the game to the point to where you went from 60 beats a minute to 80 beats per minute to 100 beats a minute. Your job is to stay there like y'all are sitting right now, enjoying a cold beer at a clinic, watching it on TV. That's your goal. Your goal is to be at 60 beats per minute and make the call. All right? So this is pretty much for the back judges. And I think Tripp and Mike and Alan and Novak will agree. You back judges, to go back to what I talked about earlier in the first slide, you have to be the expert in the kicking game, passing game, and any dead ball officiating, which I didn't put in there, but you've got to know everything about it. Otherwise, go be a line judge, head linesman, because a strong back judge is no matter what going to own that stuff. And kicking game, if you are waiting for it to be blocked every time, you need to be an umpire, or you need to be a wing guy, or you need to be a referee, because you got to like the fact that everything's coming towards you, and you got to know what's going on that scrimmage kick. Same thing with, you need to be the go-to guy for kicking, passing, period, end of story. You better know all the enforcements. Now, for the rookies, you need to build into that. You need to understand that, because some of these veteran guys are going to go, you're going back there. But you got to realize everything's going to come towards you towards the end of the second, the end of the fourth quarter. So you've got to be extra prepared for those deep shot balls. And in the passing game, you've got to know when you're in the middle of the field and when you start to get into the red zone. Your red zone starts at about the 30 when you're lining up at the 30. Then when they get into the red zone, you should already be in between the hashes and very rarely go outside. You can go hash to hash. And this is not a never, not an always, because officials like to say, well, this guy told me this. This is where you got to be an artist. This is where you got to learn how to, hey, the ball's getting thrown all the way down in the sideline pylon on the end line, if you got one. I got to squeeze down and I got to get closer, but I need to get closer quicker, set up, stop, and watch everything happen, if that makes sense. But if you really have to hone in on kicking and passing, your crewmates are expecting you to work 100% of that play, because they're pretty much on an island. They can help you as long as they're not ball watchers and watching that ball go off the foot and land in the arms of the punt returner. You got it all the way. So as soon as that guy catches it, you got to get upfield with your eyes, let him determine if he's free from foul. In other words, nobody's going to contact him. You got to get your eyes up the field and watch blocks. You don't want to sit there and lock in on him and watch him. Does that make sense?
So, Joe, would you say, when you're working 5-man and you're the back judge, I don't know the mechanics well enough, but you're going to be offset to whatever side you're supposed to be.
Right. In Texas, we're offside. We're offside. The head linesman stays on the line.
Okay.
And we swing to the head linesman side.
So would you say once you confirm catch and you confirm no
KCI
defensive player, or a personal foul against the returner, then right, how do you, or what do you do? Where do you look, or where do your eyes go, or what do you do?
So 9 times out of 10, they try to stick a center that's fast, right, and try to get down there if they can. So I go to the center first, because I pray to God my wing guys, this is crew communication, I hope they're looking at the first gunners that are approaching, so that if I've got a block in the back and a KCI, they're watching how that contact happened. My first initial block is going to go to the middle and first threat down the middle.
Okay.
And then now this is where you got to be an iguana. I want my periphery vision to give me the threats of, is it to my right side? Is it to my left side? You should be able to sense that. You shouldn't have to be looking at it. You should be looking up the field at that first block. And then your wing guys should be pinched in on the sides, looking at the gunners in the second wave. Your umpire's back behind those guys, looking down the center. And your referee is now the back judge, watching everybody, making sure there's no boogers. Nobody's doing anything crazy.
Is it fair to say you want to find that money block? Like if they're going left, they're going right, you want to find the block where they're going to hit the guy and get around the corner?
That's correct. If it's 5 man's more, that's going to be headlines or line judge.
It's harder. No, I got you. I know.
It's harder because, I mean, guys, this is the best thing about it is you guys are officiating the game because you only got 5. Tripp, Novak, and Mike and I were always lucky. And Alan, we got 7, 8 guys. So y'all get to hone your skills even that much more. So I'm looking, I clear, I go to the next one. I'm not sitting there watching him run sideline to sideline. I want to get free from him as long as he's free from foul. In other words, nobody can foul him. If he drops the ball, you're going to hear the crowd, even if there's 12 people in the stand, go, ooh, because the ball's out. You go back and look at it. You can drop your beanbag then. But you want to get your eyes to the first and then the second and then the third. I mean, because once you clear one, you got to have the next one. And you got to have that sense in your open peripheral view, or what I call wide angle lens. You should be knowing what's in front of you, but more importantly on that block than the second and the third level.
Because that's the toughest play in my opinion, 5-man to officiate. A, because all 22 are running around going haywire, and B, it's over 30, 40 yards. Well, maybe not that far, but at least 35, 40 yards of people running around, and one block can spring that kid, and it's tough to get. And so I guess my point would be, even line of scrimmage guys or the deep people, kind of read what they're trying to do, and then those kids they'll tell you. I mean, it's a design play, right? So, I mean, we used to build a wall when I played, and we all pretty much just like boom, boom, boom. We had 1, 2, 3, 4. We all kind of followed each other, and then we just now you can't blindside people, but we would just basically pick everybody off, and if you're officiating, you can almost go like down, like boom, that guy hits him clean, boom, that guy hits him clean, and so you need to get your head on a swivel and be able to get set and then read what happens, because if you're just running downfield and running as hard as you can and you're not setting up and watching the entire play, you'll miss it. So my encouragement to the wing guys would be hurry really super quickly while the ball's in the air, and whoever goes first, try to get as far as humanly possible downfield. And then when he catches it, I would try to settle in and then just watch your view versus continuing to run downfield, and then when your head's bobbing around, you won't see those money blocks. So
anyway. And one thing I really want to stress on 5-man mechanics, guys, we like to run too much in 5-man mechanics. Everything's about 10 yards. So you're getting 3 yards on a punt play. They're going to get 6 to 8 yards. If they break it, they're going to beat everybody to the goal line. Doesn't matter. Just sit up and watch it. You're gonna you want to get the big boogers. You want to get the true side, blind side blocks, targets, low blocks. You want to set up and watch it. I, as a back judge, try to just drop anchor, and I'm like, let him go. Let it go and see what happens. Same thing in passing. When the ball is coming down at the apex of when I sense, you should, as a back judge, you should sense when the ball gets thrown from the quarterback, and you should be able to sense when it's 20 yards away, you'll see the receiver start to go up with his arms. You have to have that second sense so that you can officiate that play. And you need to hunker down and watch it. So now we have more basketball on grass. You got to know who's got a block or who's got a charge. You have got to officiate one or the other. I personally officiate the defense because it's easier to see him to do something and then what's done to him. So they coach offensive pass interference. Defense is trying to make a play. So that's another side of it. But on the kicking game, just be slow, be deliberate, find your comfort zones, get with great mentors, keep getting better, watch a lot of film. Back judges all should be watching film for the kicking game on punts. I mean, there is huddle, there is all the reruns that have been on. Instead of watching the ball, watch what those guys do and just sit there and see how you would work that play. You can watch film all day long. So,
well, identify the threat too, right? So
big time.
They're starting to run downfield, and I don't know how much chase mode, no chase mode, but whenever I'm working a game, I try to pick out in the second wave the two people that are going to be threatened the most, and then if somebody's following them from the receiving team, that will pretty much take you to the bad block, if you will. If they're out in free space, then I go find something else. If they're both just running by themselves, boom, 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 and just try to identify where if they're running shoulder to shoulder, the guy's not going to block in the back. It's the guy that's behind him is going to do it 100% of the time. And I don't know how they want you to work as far as like Wyoming, but don't give those guys an advantage that he can't. I mean, he's got to be even with him. Don't let him put one hand in the back and then just push him forward and he lands on his face. And then if your supervisor says completely the opposite, go with what your supervisor says. But
Yeah.
you know,
But guys, get the big ones. And
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes they're subtle. But you got this. This goes back to Novak of officiating. You got to know when he got the advantage over that offender,
Right.
that offensive guy or defensive guy. Read and react to what they're giving you.
Yeah.
Just like, what are you reading into? What are you reacting to? You know, who led the dance? I mean, there's all kinds of different realms. And this goes in for DPI, OPI, you know, just get the fine cut of meat. You want 80% of everybody to agree that's a foul. You want to stay away from 50-50s and below. Anything, you know, when it comes to judgment and all that kind of stuff. So I hope that helps.
So I got a question for Joel and Trip. Something I do when I'm on punts and kicks, you know, we're always supposed to be looking out in front of, you know, the play, right? I visually or physically in my head tell myself I cleared that block. Okay, then I go to the next one. I cleared that block. Every time you go to the next competitive matchup, you tell yourself that's the good block. I cleared it. You go to the next one. Is that kind of how you guys do it?
Yeah, excellent. That's great, Alan. So the other thing, that the offside guy, you don't get the play off. If it's running to the head linesman side, that line judge has got to clean everything up so somebody doesn't get up and hey-hook somebody because he just got knocked on the ground. So what do you think he wants to do? He wants a little revenge. So that offside guy, don't get your Cheetos or your freaking bag of popcorn out. You've got to be in the play, and you got to work through it. So
that's a really, 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 really good question. And one of the things I started doing is I'll start saying the number out loud. 24 is good. 15 is good. 17 is good. Because let's say my compadre, my back judge, throws a flag on it, and I see it, and you can feel it when they throw a flag, and it's a close block, but you cleared it, and you say, I'm good. I would walk in there, and I would say, okay, who is that on? And if it was 24, 15, or 17, I'd say, I think you want to pick that up. But if you don't know the number, then you can't help them. And it's hard to do. It's really, really hard to do. But once you start kind of training yourself of like clearing blocks, and you just say that, I say the number out loud to myself because that's the only way I can remember it. But that's the way you can give maybe one of your fellow officials some help. If you see a block and you clear it and you say, that's a great block. And then, you know, because maybe he or she got to it late.
It's all about angles.
Yeah. And so it's just a great way of, you know, putting that little feather in your cap and being able to just be a little bit better and being able to help.
So what I want to do is I'll run through these a little bit quicker, but these are important. So, but expert mechanics, rules, judgment, and then owning the winning questions. When I was in high school, I was a head linesman. I owned winning questions because you're never in doubt as an official. You're in question. All right. So remember that. So know those simple facts over and over again. Mechanics. Look, guys, rookies, you need to know where to stand, what to look like, walk like a duck, talk like a duck. That's all you need to worry about. Rules and all that other crazy stuff, that comes as you grow and mature. You can try to be really good in the rules, but if you don't know where to stand and look and see and visually know what you're supposed to be looking at, you're going to fail. So you're not going to be retained. All those kind of things. You've got to be really good at mechanics, knowing where your eyes need to be, where they don't need to be, and why. So you can help out that head linesman or the umpire, or as a back judge, I'm sitting there and I need help on the tightrope. I need to make sure my wing guy says, yeah, I got him in, and not blowing it dead at the 5, and I've already got my hands up for a touchdown. All those little things, mechanics. If you're focused and you know where to look, while you're looking there, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be fine. Winning questions. We had a lot of winning questions on the NCAA rules, just like philosophies. Learn those, create those. Those are great crew discussions. Those are the things that make a crew better. When I say sniper, catch, no catch in game situations, I kind of went over this a minute ago on the game situation. What are my scenarios? Is it 3rd and 5, and I know it's going to be close for the wing guys, and they're going to get that line before they get the goal line? Is it, are we in the first half, second half, time situations? On catch, no catch, like Alan brought up, guys, if you know the guy made the play, you got a rule on it. The worst thing that you can do is go up and then the ball's rolling out. Take your time, play it through in your brain. We think it's an eternity and it's about a second and a half. Just play it one more time. I know what I know that I saw, when I saw it, how I saw it. He caught it with his left arm. The laces are down. The stripes are down. He brought it in, hit the ground, slid, showed me the ball, then it came out. See the detail so you can build credibility with that coach, with your co-officials. Say, Coach, this is what I saw. So when you don't see a catch, they show themselves very quickly. If you have a slow, deliberate process, catch and no catch comes very easy. Make sure they have a second act. Make sure they showed you, I got it, I turned, I stepped, I got hit, ball came out. And you just need to have that process. It goes back to that seeing all those little details in a very fast clip. And that way, if you can communicate that coach is going to see it on film, and you're going to be have credibility, along with your co-officials will have credibility. So learn how to train your eyes, learn how to, and this is with a lot of aspects. If you don't know, you need to say, I don't know. I got it no catch because I didn't see the whole process. So game situations, down and distance, whether we're in the red zone and we're inside the 10, I better be looking for picks. Red zone versus the regular field are two different games. You got to make sure you know those things. You got to know once they're inside the red zone and it's 5-man mechanics, it's really hard to get that rub route. So you may want to set up and square off and get it. If it's a 3-receiver wide set, 2 on the other side, that ball is going to come out within 2 to 3 seconds. You just got to guess the right way 9 times out of 10. You got to know those situations.
Good. Joe, great point. And sorry to interrupt again. Like we said last week, scouting is a big thing. If you're able to scout the teams, you're going to know that number 84 is a stud receiver. You're going to know if they run those picks or those rubs. And again, it doesn't mean that we know what's coming, but if you ask JW and Tripp and these guys, it helps. I mean, that's why you scout the teams. So use every kind of resource that you can to prepare yourself for the teams that you have. It can only help you. Again, it's not an absolute. And I'll tell you what, we could really, as officials, we could be so much better if we knew on every play what was coming, because we know exactly where to look and where to officiate. But we don't get that luxury. We're more reactionary, and we have to rely on just what Joel said, our instincts and our mechanics and things like that. So if you can scout, you're going to know when you get into the red zone, boy, they like to throw that back end zone fade to this guy. Or if if I see this guy coming to the game and they get into this formation, typically this is what happens, especially in high school. It's not going to be different week to week. I guarantee you, if they've got a stud at running back and he's leading the state, they're going to give him the ball. If they got a quarterback that's leading the state in passing and a couple of receivers that got a lot of yards, Those are the guys that are going to get the ball. So you probably know where it's going to go. So use those two, just like we said last week, referees. You see those guards pulling, you know that run's going to the outside, so get your eyes out there first. Just use these indicators that will help you, because just like Joel said, and 5 guys out there is 5 set of eyes. You're already at a disadvantage. Take and use whatever you can. Sorry to interrupt again.
No, that's great. That's what it's all about. So as a back judge, you can always help the R. Like, he may have the clock because it's on one side of the field and your back's to it, so he's helping you. Vice versa. You may be able to get him a number. If we have 2 fouls on the play, whoever the calling official should stay with him. But if not, back judge, look, I know they want you to write fouls down, everything else, but just be the double check guy. Make sure those things are happening. You can help the U on the hash marks. You know, in our league, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, starting from the press box side to the visitor back. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we got the hash, then we got the outside upright, right? Then the middle, then the outside upright, and then the other hash. Does everybody understand 1 through 5? So as a back judge, I carry that as a backup for my umpire. That helps him. He'll sit there and look at me. All I got to do is tell him it was 3. Now, that's multi-threading. That's getting farther down, but you can help umpires when you got a good lineman that can get to the second level in high school that's being recruited. You can help him with a defensive hold sometimes because he's working the front side or back side, depending on how y'all work it. Head linesman, a line judge, a great back judge can always help them when they need it. They can sit there and say he was inbounds or out of bounds, and you've got it as a back check for the referee. I mean, there's so many things you can do as a back judge for a head linesman, line judge. Same thing with clocks. You've got to be good at that, but more importantly, you've got to be helping the clock operators. If you know you got a homer and he's not running it, you can sit there and say, hey, we need to run another 10 seconds off, or, you know, if y'all's league lets you do it. So I want to make sure we get through everything. So wide angle versus microscope vision. Guys, when I say wide angle, you need to be able to focus as back judges. Sometimes you're going to be wide. Sometimes you're going to focus in closer. You're not going to be, and you'll be like a telephoto lens, but you don't want to get so close. Worst call ever made in Division I football is I got microscopic view. I saw one tug and completely blew the call because I didn't see the wider angle. It didn't affect him. He ran right through the grab. And so you don't want those calls, but I got microscope eyes. That's the worst thing you can do. Have wide angle, telephoto, and know when they need to zoom in, zoom out on your vision. Multi-thread is, you know, sometimes you're going to need on the inline what the shoe color was, because if they got 2 white shoes, well, who had the Nike stripe and who has Adidas? What kind of gloves did he have? And, you know, there's all kinds of little ways that you can get better on catch, no catch, because you saw that the stripes and the laces were up. He caught it, pulled it in his left arm. That builds credibility with those coaches, your co-officials, your assigner. Because if there's a big play and it decides who goes where, and you tell them exactly what, and you can describe exactly what you saw, and you're doing those little things, that builds that credibility. I want to get to questions and stuff. I want y'all's feedback. So crew fundamentals is next, I believe. And this is what we all need to do. But more importantly for back judges, you got to own those possessions. You got to make sure things are flowing for your whole crew. Those possessions are big for each team. I think it's also owning your position, which is down in my crew fundamentals, but I mean on my individual fundamentals, but possessions, each possession, hey, how did we do on that? What's our booger that as a crew we can look at? Because a back judge, you can write those things down. Penalty enforcement, there's no reason anybody on the crew we miss a penalty enforcement. But back judges, do not take a play off. Do not let your referee screw up a penalty enforcement. Do not let your crewmate screw up a penalty enforcement. If they don't know, make a decision together, do it, and get through it so game management's not affected. But penalty enforcement is a whole crew thing, just like timing, just like count. You can't miss those three things. Game management is very simple. You can have a perfect game. For us, you know, I don't know if y'all have 12-minute quarters. For us, we're 15. So you can have 59-30 perfect, and the last 30 seconds screw up and you get a call from the supervisor. That's the worst thing you can have. So be effective. Don't lose focus. Stay in commitment. Stay focused and concentrated, but more in consistency and finish every single thing. That communication is key. You're going to communicate with your crew, your coaches. You communicate with clock operators, your auxiliary down box, or your auxiliary group, like the chains, the clocks. Go up and communicate and say thank you to the janitor that's out there that's picking up the trash. You want to communicate that you're there, you care, you're happy to be there. And if you do these things as a back judge, but more important as a crew, that's a crew fundamental. I want those guys back. I don't know who they were. You want to be a Navy SEAL. You went in, you did your job, you communicated, everybody got out safe, nobody got hurt, nobody knew our names, we did our job. And then don't assume anything on the football field. Communicate with your co-officials. Assumptions is when you get, oh, he's got a face mask, but really he had a UNR on the other team, and you saw a face mask, but you didn't throw your foul. You didn't throw that face mask, and he calls a UNR, and nobody saw they should offset. Don't assume. Make sure and bring help. Like Tripp said, hey, I cleared 15. What's wrong? Why do you not? Well, I got a block in the back. You know, work through it. Help on the clocks. Help. Don't assume that person has X when they really have A. So get through the things. Same thing on back judges, multiple fouls. You got to make sure your referee didn't point the wrong way, that he communicated on the mic correctly, and that everything got done the way it needed to be. Change of possessions are always big on this. You know, I used to have a referee. We had dual fouls on a change of possession. He always pointed the wrong way. I would have to stand where he needed to point. So you have to do those little things to help your co-officials. And then pregame, what's the weather like? What are we going into? What are the scouting report? What do the teams look like? What are their tendencies? Who, you know, are they a spread and we're going against an option team? That's all part of that prep pregame, so that you know what you're going into. You prep and pregame with the guys that you already know. You know, you may have a weak link on the crew that week. Well, you need to make him better or her better. They need to make you better. They may be right on something and you're wrong, and you got to be big enough to understand that, and vice versa. You may have to help them through, but don't just assume he's the worst guy in our chapter. Well, he's the one that's the system is either going to make him look good. Your system's going to make him look good, or if it's a bad system, it'll make a lot of good guys look bad. So you've got to get through that. And then on individuals, I just want to go through, you got to have great focus. You got to have really good communication. These are your goals every year. I kind of set this up for the gamut from rookie to veteran. Where is your benchmark? And no matter what, I want to be better than I was. I want to be the best back judge. I want to be the best referee. And I don't want to step over anybody or on anybody. I just want to do it. So how do I do it? Well, every year you need to be honest with yourself. You can put goals down, you can journal, but bottom line, think about this. If every guy got better, GB'd in your association, the crews, the individuals that you make up every single week, if everybody got better 10%, that's 50% better when you hit the field the next year or the next game. If I got better 10% by myself, another guy got 5, another guy got 5, so now we're at 20% better. I know y'all don't work in crews, but every week you should be 10% better than you were. And then for the year, you should minimum be 10% better from your benchmark the year before to the next year. Owning your position, you hear this. People ask me all the time, what does that mean, owning your position? That means when a Scott Novak is called by somebody, it's, hey, I'm putting Wetzel's on your crew. And first thing he's going to say is, oh, shit. But, you know, then his other referee may say, God damn, I don't know. I'll take him, though. Same thing. Mike or Tripp or Alan, you know, if you own your position, people will do you're talking for you, and they're going to put you in a position. And in Wyoming, I don't think there's a shortage of working football. It's just a matter if you'll take the assignment. Is that right? Pretty much? All right. So be excellent. You're not going to be perfect. You're going to screw up. When you kick a call, I'll never forget walking back to the sideline, and the coach said, this is what I saw. And I said, Coach, if that's what you saw, you're probably right. We didn't have the angle. I know I didn't have that angle. But you know, sometimes, hey, they're sitting there, they don't have a dog in the fight, and they saw something better because they had a better angle. Fess up to it. Be credible. Say, hey, Coach, sorry, that's the last thing we don't want to do is kick a call, but own it. Build credibility. Don't be a liability. Be green and growing. Don't be rotten on the vine. And then I put in these things right here because the next slide this is an older one. I hadn't got 18, 19, and 20 for some reason on the spreadsheet. I don't know why I didn't copy, but you go through the top 10 fouls in NCAA. That's what they are. Back judges, you're going to have 7 out of the 10. So you better be really good because you're going to have holding, UNR. You're not going to have false start unless it's on a kick, the guy kicking off, you know. That'll be hard to do, but I've had OFK a few times. But that's my false start. But you're going to have DPIs. You're not going to have DOFs, but you're going to have UNR, UNSs. You're going to have dogs. You're going to have face masks. You're going to have defensive holding and IBBs. Now, if you go down, you'll see all the other codes. But this is across the board for all start. The wing guys, that's why you want to help those wing guys. They're so focused on false starts, DOFs, shifts, all those. You know, they've got to be, they're working 95% of the game, and you get the dun-dun-dun call, so you've got to be sharp. That's why they call you the skilled position, and the secretary, and a few other things. So those are little stats. That's from 11 to 17, but you'll see the color codes where they changed and when they kicked up, and, you know, the number of fouls that were called. So back judges, I challenge you, 7 out of the top 10 fouls you will have. So you better be really good at those.
Hey, Joel.
Yep.
Can you say what these acronyms are? Someone may not know what they are.
Okay, so FST is false start. OH is holding. DPI is defensive pass interference. DOF is defensive offsides. UNR is basically, I don't know what that is in Federation, but isn't it just unnecessary roughness, or is it? So it's any personal foul. UNS is unsportsmanlike, where they taunt, spike the ball. Dogs are dogs, delay of games. FMMs are obviously face mask. Defensive holding is DH. And then IBB is blocking the back. So y'all got, you know, those are going to, that was a 2017. And when I looked at the stats, they're pretty close, 17, you know, 19 and 18 and 20, or we hadn't done 20 yet. But, so I wanted to throw those in. With that being said, I'm happy to entertain questions. You got Tripp, Novak, Mike, and Alan, and I commend y'all. It's a lot to get through, man. There's so much to learn about this. Just be green and growing and always know you can get better. I call it, that's Tom Quick's favorite saying is GB, or get better. I call it GB. So.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started with questions. Joel, thank you for that. Folks, I will circulate those PowerPoint slides as well that he built. But Bill Lyons, I know you're out there, so you are next on the queue.
Hey, thanks, Joel. I appreciate the time. So my question is, it seems like when we're doing games, if we're going to have a crew saver call, it's probably coming from the back judge. So and they're usually reaching a fair distance, but probably within your wheelhouse. Describe to us kind of some of the things that pull your attention towards those crew saver calls.
So you're talking mostly dead ball, Bill?
Yep.
So
Most of them are going to be dead ball.
yeah. So guys, the biggest thing you can do is not be moving, and you're going to feel just Terrence Miles, who lives in Denver. He has the saying of salmon going upstream. You're going to feel it's like the guy with the brick going against the grain. You need to feel out of your iguana eyes where the pressure's coming after the play. That's why you don't want to look at the clock. I look at the clock when it's usually at 29 to 30 is my routine. I have that's my post-game routine. I don't worry about the 40-second clock. I know I should have 10 seconds by the time I look up is what my goal is. But you want to sense if there's a safety coming downhill and the cornerback is already launching this way, you want to just stop and watch what happens. And then if he's getting up, I want to make sure the colors separate. I want to make sure that if you're an offside line judge, you're going to need to be paying attention if everything's on the head linesman side. The way you're going to pick up these dead balls is by everybody needs to work. We have circles. Some guys call it the box. The immediately calling official is going to have that immediate area. Then the offside guy that's closest to that ruling official is going to have the second circle. Then it's going to go out to the third circle. So you'll have 3 sets of eyes in different circles, if that makes sense. And as a back judge, my number one thing is I want to clear. That's all my fundamentals. You've got to have great dead ball officiating, count, keys. You do those things, you're worth your weight in gold is for a crew member. So my other biggest thing that I would say is you have if you have a presence and you're close to it, you can kind of try to break it up and get there. But if they define who they are and they're a bad actor and they slug a guy, then you got to know if he open-handed it or if he punched him. So you want to have a presence. I always like to say anytime they're in between the 25s and going into the bench as a back judge, I already know to rotate over. The offside wing guy needs to be rotating over. So we're boxing it in, if that makes sense. So you got your calling official circle, the next outside circle, which would be the next guy in that vicinity should be keeping an open view. Back judge, you're always looking out and just slowly turning. I wouldn't do real quick. And move your eyes, don't move your head. That's another thing. Just quickly glance. If you feel a guy coming this way off your right, just open up and let it see what happens, if that makes sense. If it's a live play, coming back for a crackback or a target, dead ball versus live ball. And then that line judge, that offside guy should have a look too. So you always want to be any target, we have to come together and talk with another official. Two people should have seen it is what our mechanic.
Okay. Hey, Joe, this is Terry from Orland.
Yep.
How far down the secondary in advance are you going to go primary on this play you're talking? So you're off-ball officiating to zone 1, zone 2, zone 3. When are you going to take it over for the wing?
Well, when it's dead,
when it's a live ball, it's
live
coming
ball,
to you.
I'm looking like if it's a breakaway, I'm going to try to get to the goal line. Is that what you mean?
So we've got a 5 or 8 yard sweep. You're obviously not on the ball coming out to you, but
Right.
this progresses to a 20 and a 25 yard play. When
Sure.
do you become primary to it?
When we worked high school, if the guy couldn't get, we took it pretty much inside the 10 and in. But if it's a 60-yard run and he's no way he's going to get caught, I go to the goal line and I take it all the way. If the guy gets caught and it's a 20-yard sprint, I'll just set up because I'm already at 20. Like if I know, the biggest thing is read and react to the play, guys. If you know he's a breakaway, but you see the safety, he's got angle, slow down. you're going to get the, unless he breaks away again, then he may beat you by 5 yards to the goal line. So be it. But if he's, and what I mean by that, I'm just trying to make sure if he's broken away and he's at 20, we started at the 20-yard line going in, or on the opposite side, we're on the B going to A, and it looks like he's going to get caught near the 50, then I'll take that spot for it all day long. If that makes sense.
Thank you.
Good.
Terry, it's your question technically in the queue too. I don't know if you want to double dip, but feel free.
Well, in my original question was dead ball versus off ball on a 5 to 8 yard sweep, which is primarily going to be the, one of the two lines. What are you looking at on an 8 yard sweep as a back judge? How far off are you looking? You're not spotting a ball.
Right. I'm looking left hash to the bench. I want to keep my left periphery to the left so I can be, because for all I know, the umpire's having to break up a fight at the line. If it's a 5 to 8 yard sweep, I want to be left, that inside that hash through the numbers to the sideline as a cone, looking like a cone. I want to keep all 22 guys in front of me as a back judge.
Well, Joel, don't you go? I mean, granted, it's been a while, but I always thought the back judge worked his or her ass off more than anybody on the field, because, you're going to help those wing guys. The play goes in the bench. You're going to go in there and help them get guys out. And aren't you basically, you're slowing down, and when he's tackled, you're not running to the bench, but you potentially could run sideline to sideline, couldn't you?
Yeah, but you're reading and reacting, guys. If a guy, if it's a 5, 8 yard sweep and it's inside the 9 yard mark and the sideline, I'm going hash to sideline.
Yeah.
If I know the wing guy, if that's an 8 yard sweep and he goes into the bench, but it's 5 yards into the bench, I may come to the top of the number so I can run in quick. If that makes sense. So it's a read and react to whatever they're giving you. If it's the kid runs into the bench, the wingman drops his beanbag, well, I'm busting. Umpire should swing in. The offside wing guy should swing in and back us up, and I may be in the bench. So it's just read and react. If we're down inside the 25s and we don't have the bench to worry about, I may just turn and watch the kid, make sure he doesn't slash the throat or have a UNS of some type. So, just read and react to, okay, I know my wingman needs help. He's in the bench. But if he's 20 yards because somebody tripped him or whatever else, I got to go, if that makes sense. It's you just got to read and react. You got to be able to sense that game situation. Those are the small things that you got to figure out.
And two, JW, sorry, Tyler, to jump in. Terry, on that 5 to 8 yard sweep, if you're the back judge, what is the tackle on that side? What is he probably doing?
He's setting a seal block.
Exactly. So he's either holding the edge or he's blocking down. So as soon as I read your indicators. At that point, as a back judge, I'm not backing up. I'm not bailing out. I'm just standing right there. And I'm watching the edge and I'm officiating any trouble on that outside. So really, that's just like Joel said, that's your first look. So if that tackle's blocking down right there, or that wide out kind of what we call stock blocks, the corner to occupy that, I'm read and run, I'm not moving. Yeah. So I can look at that stuff on the edge, I can keep my feet right there, and I can officiate, and I can keep that wide vision. And then if I need to close, just like Joel said, because there's an issue or it goes into the bench, that's fine. But right there again, take your indicators. If it's just a sweep to the outside, I'm probably going to get a guard that pulls out, and that tackle's going to block down. I'm freezing right there. I see run. I'm reading run. So that's, and again, I'm not trying to steal your thunder, Joel, but that's just, these are just indicators on how you can officiate that play without just running all over the place, like a chicken with your head cut off. You're just real composed. Guys blocking down, guards pulling out, stock block, I got to run. I'm focusing on that area. And all I'm doing is looking at blocks. I don't need to see the runner. He's not my responsibility. Nobody's got him. Because if he's going to fumble, somebody's going to see it. And it sure as hell ain't going to be me throwing a beanbag from 25 yards down the field.
Exactly. And what the other thing is guys, when I say read and react, if I read run, I'm not bailing out for a pass. So I want to read and react to what those 7 to 8 guys that I'm officiating are doing. I see what I call it as primary, secondary, sometimes third and 5, fourth, then back to my primary. Once that's threatened, that area becomes threatened. Those zones. If I'm watching the ball, I'm dead to rights, and I'm not going to get a playoff game because I shouldn't. I'm a ball watcher. So that's why you got to know primary, secondary. When I say that, those are your keys. I'm going to go to my primary block. I'm going to work inside out as a back judge. I'm working inside out. Once that runner gets out, and then I'm moving up to that second level to help my wing and my umpire. My umpire is going to come behind me and look at the blocks and what's going that way. The wing, and then you got to read and react to the sideline. If Tripp's running down the sideline and that runner's on the sideline, I'm looking inside now for that first and second primaries closest to that runner. If that guy's threatened, if there's another guy about to tackle him and go out of bounds, stuff like that, I'm on the inside. I'm working inside out from the center. I'm going to start working primary blocks, first, second, third, back to primary blocks is what I call it.
And Joel, just real quick, if your tackle, let's say you're looking at that tackle, instead of firing out, if he stands up, what do you think? What do you got? Absolutely.
Yeah.
So again, guys, use these indicators. The teams are going to tell you typically what's going to happen. If he stands up, not firing, it's pass play. If guys are pulling and firing out, it's a run. So just right there. Again, you just, don't get locked in on your keys and just watch 1 or 2 guys. Man, learn how to officiate the play and look at everything that you can, and it'll help you because, again, with only 5 guys out there, you're already at a disadvantage.
And that's that communication, read and react to. Because run, all keys are off. Now you're going to zones.
Yep.
You're all zoned up. As soon as you read run, now granted, you may have a really good team that can run there's a couple good, great teams in high school that can run those, very quick dump passes and all that, and they get that 3-yard advantage. And I can't remember Federation. I think it's a yard, isn't it? They don't have 3 yards. Is that right?
You mean IDP?
Yeah, for IDP. Illegal man downfield. Y'all don't have NCAA. We've got 3 yards. They can go block 3 yards down. But long story short, read and react to what the offense does. As a back judge, you need to read and react if it's a pass or a run, and then you need to be coordinated with your head linesman or line judge what that zone looks like if it's a run. My eyes are going to be here. That's film study. If I'm dealing with Stan one week and Pat the next week, and I got Sam, I want to make sure, okay, I know he's really good at watching off ball, or he's a ball watcher, or you've got to be able to read and react to where guys' eyes are. So as a back judge, you've got to have that wide angle look, and then sometimes a telephoto. You don't want to get so microscoped that in 5-man, if you do that, you're dead to rights. You've got to be a little wider in the red zone, especially. You stick with your keys a little bit, but you got to know quick when that ball goes and where you've got to go because you're the last guy.
Good stuff. Well, we're getting close to the end. I want to get through. I got 4 more folks in the queue that we'll burn through. I think they're all good questions. So as much as I'd want to cut one of them, I'm not going to. Sam, you're up, sir.
And I won't spend a lot of time on it. I think you kind of answered it, but when we're doing 6-man games, I, as an umpire, end up in that dual role.
Yeah, you do.
So something that I've had a challenge with is you get down close to the end line, and you've got the guy that crosses the goal line with the ball, and the wingman's coming down. Well, I can't see that he stepped out at the 2, and he can't see that the ball has crossed the plane. So my immediate tendency when I see the ball cross the plane is to throw up. But obviously, I need to verify with him that he was in bounds when he crossed the plane. And I didn't know if you could kind of give us some advice on your communication with that wingman or the head linesman as far as how to make that call.
Right. And this is where it goes to where the ball snapped, where you can automatically line up because you're working 4-man mechanics on 6-man, I would imagine, right? So if you're the umpire, go ahead and set up on the goal line. And if it's at the 15, who cares? It's 6-man. Get on the goal line. That way you're already where you want to end. Now, if you know they're going to pass and you got to have light feet and get to the end line in case some guy toe taps on the end line versus the goal line, read and react. But when it's short and you think it's short, but you see him punch it, I would set up at 15 and in. I would set up on the goal line. I don't know what the mechanic is, but think about it. I mean, it's either going to be a 8 to 10 yards or it's going to be a 20 yards, and you're already in position to officiate all 3 plays. Now, when it's a shorter one, that's where it gets dicey, where you can try to come up and help. But 6-man, I mean, guys are pretty spread out, right? I mean, I feel like it is. When I officiated 6-man games, the umpires seemed to, because in our rules, it was 15-yard first downs. And so we would automatically set up at 15, if not almost 18. So if we had to come up, we could come up versus go back. Does that make sense? And so
yeah, definitely.
The process is the key. You turn and look, because it's a touchdown. You banked it. You know it. Process, give him another second. If he doesn't have anything, everybody in this chat, everybody in 5-man mechanics, I challenge every single one of you this year to wait 2 seconds before you signal. And when you signal boom or boom, not jumping up or, this. I mean, simple, strong signals. I've seen it a million times. Process. That gives your co-official time to shut it down or look at you like, ring it up, So take those 2 extra seconds. It seems like an eternity as an official.
Right.
That keeps me out of trouble more than it ever has in my life, is to just learn that extra 1.5 to 2 seconds. I saw it. I got a touchdown. I know I got a touchdown. Is he short? Nope. We're good. Just like that.
So that's a verification. That extra second, and then is a head nod and just a we're good, and throw it.
I'd run over
good.
there. I'd run all the way over there. I'd say I'd run all the way over there. I'd run over there and say,
that's a Nebraska guy.
Exactly. I'd run over there and just say, I've got the ball crossed, but where his feet in bounds. I mean, you're only going to do it if it's really tight and you'll be able to feel it, right? I mean, you'll know, but a lot of times, depending upon what type of play it is, that line of scrimmage guy might be running down there and he's only going to have feet, and he'll have no clue on whether or not, or potentially have no clue whether that ball got across or was he short or whatever. And you should be able to feel that. And I would run over there and say, I've got the ball across. Is he clean on the sideline? If he is, then just go up with it. But
yeah, especially if it's a game-impacting call. I mean, it's the 4th quarter winning touchdown. If you got to come together, come together.
Yeah.
I mean, get it right. And if you screwed it up, get it right. Come back together and talk about it. Say, I know that I got the ball past the line.
Because it's worse if you ring it up. You wait 2 seconds, you ring it up, and then your line of scrimmage guy comes down and says, God, I had him stepping out the 3, and then you're like, well, why weren't you killing the clock? And you're like, well, I was winded. I just ran 45 yards. And so I would say on those tight goal line plays, if you can run over there, that's going to happen once in 100 times. But those ones where you're just not 100% sure where his feet are, I would definitely just confirm, and then it looks really good.
You guys, especially in a 6-man game, you can run over 10 yards and say, I got touchdown. Is he in? Or is it?
No, you got the ball across the line. You don't necessarily
have sorry. Thank you, Trip. You can say, you have his feet in. I always had the adage, I always told every one of my crewmates, if I'm looking at you, I'm got touchdown.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I'm ruling incomplete, or, you know, like if there's any question, I'm saying I got 6, you know, now granted, I got another guy down there, you know, I got 2 guys that are with me. So same thing with you guys. I mean, working your dynamics pregame, back judges, wing guys. Hey, if I'm looking at you, I got 6. If I'm looking at you and my eyes are looking like plates, I need help. You know when a guy needs help.
Well, and that's
You know
that's
when
why
the guy's
running
in the tank.
over to talk to a person can sometimes give them enough time to reprocess it and
Yep.
then get it right, versus, to Joel's point earlier, making a quick signal. And when I grew up, I mean, you just nail it, get that signal really super quick, and you don't really realize until you watch yourself on film enough where when you go, I mean, it is super quick. You've got time, and it's okay if you run over there, as long as you're composed and you're not staring at each other like looking like what the hell went on. If you have a nice conversation and you come out with a nice firm signal, that's okay. I mean, you don't want to do it every single time they score a touchdown, but I mean, there are times where, especially on nut cutting plays, and you want to get it right, and maybe one out of the 2 people are not 100% sure, that's a really good time to talk about it for 3, 4, 5 seconds. And I'll guarantee you, if you go over there and okay, I've got that ball across, I'm not sure on the feet, and then his feet, or you go over to the official and they're like, I don't know. Then my next question is, were his feet in or were his feet not in? And then, if he's like, I'm like, screw it, we're ringing it up. But, that should prompt that person to say, okay, I needed to see that feet, because once in a while you'll get a situation where someone just doesn't know, and you provided information, you tried your best, but then at some point, then you just got to make a decision, what's best, that you
And
did.
that's what you call bang it. At that point, okay, you've had your time. Somebody's got to make a decision, and you don't go up like a spike. You go up like elkhorns. You're boom, or you're incomplete, or I got catch. So
And I'll put this one to bed, Sam. Just like I said last week, if you want, Google Texas A&M Wyoming 2000, and with about 1 minute left in the game, and I will show you mechanically how not to officiate that play. I am living proof of that. So if you want to know how not to mechanically do it, then you watch me do it in that game, and that's how you don't do it.
there you go, Tyler. You got a homework.
Right there.
Duly
I think
noted.
I remember that. Thank you.
Yeah, there you go. I got plenty of boo-boos for you. Just Google
We got
that.
plenty of plays. We got plenty of plays.
Plenty of them.
Does that help, Sam? Okay.
Good stuff. Willems, you're up. Dave Willems.
Hold on, I got there. I was Googling Texas A&M and Wyoming in 2000.
Thanks a lot. Yeah. Hi, Dave. Yeah, first time caller, long time listener. I understand. No problem. Go
Wait,
ahead.
where's the change? Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So I like the categories because it gives me something to process, and it gives me something to tell a coach when they ask what happened. What are the categories for DPI and OPI?
Okay, so y'all got one extra one in Federation. It's called pizza. What's it called? Y'all have an acronym for it. But
Actually got rid of it. It used to be PF Chang, but they got rid of face guarding.
That's what it was.
So it's
Yeah.
P Chang
So it's
now.
like, what? So you got push. Okay, so this is on let's do defensive pass interference first, right? So you got the hook and turn. That's the one where they pull in, and you got the hook and turn, right? The one that's the artistic call, what I call the cutoff, which the guy goes in front or he runs him out and he's cut his route. Okay, everybody good with that? So you got a hook and turn, cut off. Then you've got playing through. Well, where it's the old. He's up here playing a Hank route, just a curl route. He's going up like here, and the guy just goes through him, right? Then you got the just a grab and restrict. You know, he's releasing, he's trying to get out of his break and run a post, and he just hooks him just enough, right? So everybody good with that? So let's see, how many am I on? 4? That's 4, wasn't it? Yeah.
6 more to go.
Huh?
6 more to go.
6 more. So then, what y'all used to have face guarding, right? In Federation, y'all don't have that anymore. I heard.
Pretty recently, they took it out a year or 2 ago.
Yeah, 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
God.
If there's no contact, there's no foul. Just look at it that way.
Yeah. The other thing, back judges, I'll say is guys, look, material. You know what I loved about Walt is he gave us a benchmark that we could always hang our hat on. If there's a material effect, okay, in the rule book it says material restriction. If you see a shoulder dip, you know, that's a grab and restrict, right? If you see a cutoff, the guy, he can't get to the ball, all right? Now, you also have the arm bar, right? So if he's going out and he pulls that arm and, you know, he's sitting out there and he extends it all the way out and pulls him back, keeps him, you know, from getting to the ball. We need to make sure and get those. So those are the 6 that you're supposed to have. Now, I like to sit back and say there's a couple other ones, but those are the 6 major categories that you're going to see. And you need to know in the red zone, they're going to run skinny post, slants. You need to know what route trees those kids are going to run in the red zone. So you can bank your hat on, okay, most of these guys they're not like the NFL where they're playing 0 coverage or 1, which means man on man, right? They're going to play off, but when they're in the red zone, you're going to see them cheat up. So that's when you may see a grab and restrict, or you may see him, you know, give them that big chuck before, you know, in our league, they can chuck somebody as long as the ball's not in the air. I think Federation, they can't do that. So, you know your rules, but those are the 6 that I know and you can hang your hat on. Now, OPI, they coach. So you just got to know in the red zone, they're in the 5 and in, they're going to rub route. So you got to know pick, which I always had this sign for my guys where I'd rub my nose like, get ready. He's gonna, you know, they're gonna pick for rub routes. Now you got to know there's all kinds of philosophies about this, but you've got blocking downfield, and it's usually going to happen in the red zone where tight end comes out and just shoves a guy and keeps going downfield, and they run a slant route underneath. Okay, that's OPI. So you got blocking downfield. Then you've got creating separation, which, in my opinion, it's the push, and then they go up and catch. Or they got the creating separate. I mean, this is the same category, but where they just do that subtle, you know, the ball's in the air, and they just barely push, and then they come up. Just enough. So you've got to be real cognizant and make sure that you see that full contact. The worst mistakes you can make is basically think it's more than it is, because your brain will make it big, and then you look at the film and you're like, ooh, that's not a foul. And you just got to be honest about it and take your accountability. Say, Coach, I blew that call. It wasn't big enough. I screwed up. So you got blocking downfield, creating separation. Creating separation is, it can be before the ball gets there, or it could be after. And then what am I missing? Push off. Push off's the other one where you get full extension. So it's a big separation, but you know, the tight ends do it all the time. They get the linebacker, they push him, they turn a hank route, and boom, the ball's right there. So I mean, the other ones that I see are a lot of rub routes, and that's where, you know, make sure they're running a route. If the receiver just goes out and stands there and then puts his arms out to try to block the guy, you know, those are field calls. But I personally, he's not running a route. You know, you can defend it. Your supervisor can defend it. So, but they're big. They're always in the red zone, or they're always, you know, on a big, long, deep threat ball. Kid pushes, you know, goes up and gets it for OPI.
Nice. Jeff Rathman, you still with us? You're up.
I am, Tyler. Thanks for putting this on, buddy. Hey, Joel and Scott, you kind of touched on this pre-game and the days before a game, going through film, that sort of thing. But on the field, what are some tips or pointers that you can give to kind of, as a back judge, to get us ready for the game? You know, talking to players, talking to coaches, doing some work, looking at formations. What kind of, can you give as a back judge some pointers, and as a crew some pointers on, you know, what can we do on the field pregame so we can be successful during the game?
Great question. I go out, I mean, we go out an hour before, but in high school, I would go out early to work with the specialist. I'd see what kind of punters we had, how good a ball were they popping, what did it look like, how did they drop it, so I could get a feel of, you know, is he kicking at 35 yards? Is he kicking 20 yards? Is he a shanker? Is he a lefty? Is he a righty? What kind of wind we had. I go out, I always believe, you know, a lot of guys will sit around in the end zone and start talking, and then you got a herd of zebras. I don't know. You've got to get out there and work the plays. They always do drills. They're always getting their fundamental drills out. Go out and watch the quarterback, see how he spins it, righty, lefty, how he spins it. Is it a duck? Is it a bullet? Is he you know, can he get that out route? Can he get that slant route? Watching the receivers catch it. Who's the stud? You know, how are they catching it? Do they have soft hands, hard hands? All those things, you can work all of those plays, so you get 40 or 50 plays before you kick off. And, you know, the umpires can be down there with the big uglies because the beef is down there bumping into each other. Linebackers are doing their thing. Safeties are, you can see all kinds of talent. Then they all come together as a team, right? You can go get about another 15, 20 snaps. Even if they're doing walkthroughs, you can get those snaps. Those are huge.
Yeah, and just to piggyback, sorry about that, JW. Jeff, one other thing I think as a back judge, when you are out there before, you know, we talked about knowing the kids and knowing their names. You know, if the guys are fielding punts, and I probably saw this on tape, I know who the punt returners are. So I'm going to go right up to them and I'm going to introduce myself. You know, hey, I'm Joel. You know, and your name's Nate or whatever. Hey, if you're going to give me, you know, fair catch signal today, make sure it's a good one. You know, and show them what you want to see. Da 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 da. The other thing, you know, the quarterbacks typically will get loose and they'll throw those, you know, the passes, kind of the long ones, you know, the go routes or whatever. When I was working deep back there, I'd always watch the kids catch the ball, and I'd pick a line on the field and watch their feet and make sure they got 2 feet down. Because I just would always want to see that. So if they were close to a line, you know, in high school or college, you only have to get 1 foot down. But I want to make sure, I want to see catch, feet, ball, feet, ball, feet, ball. So just like Joel said, you've got an opportunity to at least not officiate 40 or 50 plays, but 40 or 50 situations that will get your eyes ready to officiate. Because on that first play, I mean, you just don't want to walk out there and that's the first thing that you've seen since you got out there. So watch the feet, talk to the returners, get their name. It's just like the referees, like I said last week, go up to the quarterback, introduce yourself. You got to know that guy's first name. Umpires, you have to know the first name of the center. You have to. It's the way you manage the game. So when they're going out there for 4th down and the punt returner's out there, hey, Trip, make sure you give me a good signal, okay, if you're going to signal. Get that kind of get that response so you got that rapport going. So, man, anything you can do in the pregame, aside from just going out there and playing grab ass, get yourself ready to officiate the game.
Yeah, for back judges, guys, I thank Scott for pointing that out. I go over, what's your signal look like tonight? How are you going to do it? If I see it's invalid, I say, hey, look, I really need you to do this. For us, we've got the 15 yards. If they do a fair catch and go block, I say, I don't want you doing that because all you're going to do is cost your team 15 and your coach is going to run you. So, if it's a day game, I like to see where they're going to put their hand, what it looks like. If it's up high, I try to get it lower. I say, look, and then I go talk to both teams, coaches. And I say, look, coach, his hand's going to be about here. I'm letting him have it because and your kid's right here. So it's even Steven. And, because sometimes they're the coordinator or they're the guy that coaches that kid. I try to get the coach and him together, and so they know how I'm going to let it work. I go over for us, if they point, a big deal for us in college is if they point, I'm telling them if you do two hands or one hand, that's great. But any of this stuff, I'm shutting you down and you don't get protection. And I go over those things. But, during the game, guys, I didn't go into all that also, but preventive officiating is key in football. You're not trying to give speeding tickets. You're not trying to go get somebody. You want it to come to you. You want to tell that kid, hey, you ran a great route, or hey, D-back, man, you played that great. You want to give them love, and when you say, hey, man, I had to get you on that one, you grabbed him, and when they look at you like they didn't do anything and you're like, dude, you mugged him, those are easy. I like that. That's a CC7 all day long. But so you want to try to prevent, like if a guy's getting out of hand, say, hey, man, look, dude, go play ball. Okay, he got you on that last play. Go get him this time. Get him back in the game. Get him focused. When you see a bad actor, go talk to him and say, hey, man, don't lose your composure. Keep playing. Keep playing. Stuff like that.
Good stuff. Lincoln, you've got the last real question, and then Joel, I missed the softball, so you get it at the end. So, Lincoln,
right.
You're up.
This is going to go a little bit off Sam's question and more towards 11 man, but I know we'll back judges, and we've had this conversation a little bit in front range, but back judges are typically 20 to 25. When they get into 15, are you comfortable with that back judge split in the end zone and the end line, or do you want to go one or the other?
I mean, I know whatever your association says you're supposed to do, try to do. But common sense says you're at 15 yards, you got good wing guys, or if you got crappy wing guys, y'all should be able to triangulate that pretty good.
Yeah.
I personally would say start midway and work back versus it's the old catch-22 and 5-man mechanics. You're in the dead man zone. I mean, go up, officiate the play the best you can. If they're snapping at the 15 or the 10, I'd be in the end zone or deeper. I'd rather finish or start where I'm going to finish versus try to get there, because for all I know, I'm going to get in the way. And I can come up a whole lot faster than run backwards. We're not designed to run backwards, if that helps. I mean, those plays are the hardest plays. And that's, that's why you get paid the big bucks.
Agreed. Thanks, bud.
I bumped somebody. Joel, I think I muted you by accident. Sorry about that.
No worries.
There you go. Okay, so the softball, and then we'll finish up, guys. Joel, I know you love Wyoming, and you,
Yes,
you
I
are
do.
too kind to us ugly bugs up here. But how about a favorite Wyoming memory, whether it's bowl or previous coaches or what have you? I'd love to hear it.
Well, I got a couple, but I like coming to the home games. I've only had 2 up there, but we had a game in Nevada, and some of you guys will like this story. Some of you probably won't, but we had the infamous turd game where Christensen went crazy. We didn't have the famous game where he was in Air Force when he.
Oh, I
Howdy
had that
doody.
one.
You had that one with Big Frank. But we were the infamous crew that threw the key sheet and quarterback from Oregon out. And so people want to know what happened. So it was crazy was he had one UNS for a touchdown celebration early. And then the second one, he came up and wasn't very courteous or nice or gentlemanly to our side judge at the time. And he threw in for a UNS. And 3 of us said, that's the quarterback. I guess we're throwing the quarterback out. We were like, yep. So needless to say, Christensen was not very happy. And but I will say this, to the credit, it was kind of crazy, was I had a couple of people I knew from Wyoming, and they were like, that kid's been a turd since he's got here. I'm glad y'all threw him out. So some guys may like it, some guys may not. But Novak had the howdy doody.
Quarterback, doesn't it?
Huh?
Sucks to be the quarterback that day, doesn't it?
Yeah, he was not a good student athlete that day. But coming up to Wyoming, though, I've enjoyed coming to the dome. I mean, you know, we got to play one day. They let us play down on the court, and so, you know, I texted you earlier to make sure I had the correct, you know, correct name, because I was like, isn't it the bomb? I mean, so that was fun. We had a perfect day. It was one when Bulls just got there, and then had another one later with New Mexico, and that was a great game. I mean, I went to the bookstore and I got a Wyoming golf hat and a Wyoming rodeo hat. 2 best hats there.
Nice. Well, thanks, Joel, for the time, and the others that have spoke. Thank you for speaking up and taking your time to take care of us honkies here in Wyoming, and everyone on the call. Here in a sec, I'll stop the recording. You can unmute and say thanks to Joel and our crew. But any of our esteemed speakers, Mike or Tripp or Scott, and then AB and Joel, you get the last word since you're the guest of honor. But any parting thoughts before we call it a night?
I'll throw something in there. For if you're 30 years in this or you're 2 years in it, whatever, I would encourage you. Obviously, what time is it? It's 10 something at night. You obviously care a lot about officiating if you're doing it right now, and I respect the hell out of that. But the thing I would encourage you to do is find a mentor, find somebody like Scott, Joel, someone at your position, probably preferably, and pick their brain. And I started doing it when I was in high school. I did it in college. I do it now. And I always find those people that, one, I get along with, but 2, I really respect, because they'll be honest about your calls, and you'll throw, play up there, and, I'll throw it to Derek Bowers, and Derek will be like, Tripp, that's not a good call. And I know he'll be honest with me, and it'll make you so much better. And if you don't know, ask questions. I mean, if you need to get a hold of me, I will answer any question, anytime, anywhere. So many people have helped me in my career that, and they got this Zoom damn thing we're doing or whatever. So, I mean, really, truly, you can reach out to anyone and get answers. So if your passion, like mine was, is to do this, I mean, the sky's the limit. And it doesn't matter how old you are, where you are, whatever, the sky's the limit. But you have to take control of your career. And I would just always say, just be a good person, and you'll do really, really, really well in officiating. So, but thank you for having me on, and I thoroughly enjoyed. What do you guys call yourselves up there? What is it? the Wyoming. What do you call it? I don't know. Never mind.
There's a lot of names for us. I don't know that we'll take credit for most of them.
Right,
Cowboys, Tatankas, a kilo.
Yeah, whatever you guys call yourselves. So, great people. I'll say that.
Thank you.
Good. And I will just say that I was happy that I was able to join this. And Joel presented a lot of information tonight. If I were a new official, and even as a veteran official, there was so much information that he provided. I can see the minds are turning, and Joel was talking about looking over here, looking over there. I can see a mind's turning. I can see your eyes going back and forth, back and forth. What needs to be done is you need to prepare for every game that you're going to be a part of. And then you need to establish a very strict pre-snap routine, post-play routine, and just get into that, and it'll slow everything down. When I first got into Division I football, I had my key. My key never left my vision. I saw one player for 4 quarters. And then I realized that I needed to open my vision. And when I did that, it slowed the game down. My pregame was such that I was able to calm myself. So with all this information that you gathered tonight, try to put it into a pregame, pre-snap, post-snap, and post-play routine so that you're doing the same thing every single play, and it'll help you relax out there. Now, one thing about when I got into Division I, my very first game was in 2003, opening game of the season, Montana State at Wyoming. And the young man that was the head coach at that time, Mr. Joe Glenn. It was his first game at Wyoming. It was my first game at D1. And I had Joe Glenn when he was at Northern Colorado, all through his championship years. So it was good for me to open up in Wyoming. I was the field judge at that time. And that week, that Friday, Laramie had a big major rainstorm. And it washed out the play clock. I was responsible for the play clock. I had to use manual signals throughout the game, my first Division I football game. And in the fourth quarter, on Labor Day weekend, it snowed in Laramie, Wyoming.
Nice.
So it was a good memory for me. But thank you very much. I'll be joining you on more calls as you go forward here. Looking forward to all the great presenters that you'll be having. But good luck to you, gentlemen.
Mike, thank you. And I said this to Scott last week too, but that's a nice day in Laramie, what you experienced.
It was one of the better.
I like that you have more gray than I do.
It's natural.
All I have to say, guys, I don't care what level you're working. It's something I'm working on right now. Be humble at where you're at. Just be happy that you got to work a game. Look forward to you're going to head to another one. And be prepared when you get there. That's what I got.
Tell you, Joel. It's your night, baby.
Come on, man. You got the words of wisdom. You get to go.
Yeah. Well, my only word, I don't want to keep everybody real late, but, one of the things I didn't share last week was when I got into officiating and started, there were 3 people that I admired and I looked up to and I patterned myself after. And one of them's on the call tonight, Mike Contreras. The other guy is Dan Weichel, and another guy's name was Rich Zernicke. Those were the 3 guys when I started in officiating. I watched and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take a little bit of this guy, a little bit of this guy, and a little bit of this guy. And the reason I took Iron Mike, he was a back judge back then. I would remember him working games at Mullen High School, playoff games. He was all over the place. He managed that game from sideline to sideline, and that's one thing that I took away. But to Joel's point, to Tripp's point, man, just utilize again. Your game is really made up of a lot of people, and there's nothing wrong with taking a little bit of what Bo Seacrest does and Owen Molinex and David Williams and making that part of what you do, because that's what makes you who you are. And there's nothing wrong with that. So, just like everyone said, enjoy the ride, have fun with it. God, I hope we get to work some football this year. I had a call earlier before I jumped on this with the NFL, and it's going to be interesting. So, I hope we get to work some ball this year, and if we do, make them big. Make them big.
Good job, Scotty.
Yep. Guys and gals, if there's, you guys are in a place where if you're working football, you love football and you're working it because you want to. And that's half the battle. I threw a lot of stuff at you, but it's more to start you off, get a benchmark, grow, add. If you like something, you want to know more, there's plenty of ways to get the information to you, but continually be growing, stay on the vine, be good fruit. Don't ever get ripe. I mean, I've been in this 31 years, and I learn stuff when we're on a Zoom call like this. I learn stuff from guys that'll just call me out of the blue, and they'll send me a play, and I was like, wow. And they're young guys, and they're trying to figure it out. There's veterans. We're trying to figure it out, whatever it is. But you need to grow, implement a little bit at a time. If you're a rookie, if you're an older guy, get rid of some bad habits, because trust me, we all learn in different ways. Sometimes you got to get rid of some bad habits so you can get that next playoff game. But there's so much great information out there. There's so many good people that want to give back. I mean, when Alan and Tyler approached me, I was like, dude, whatever I can do to help, because I know the guys I've met from Wyoming are just, I mean, let's go. Where are we going to go? And I can't outdrink them, so I don't even try. So, I know you guys are road warriors. I'm honored to be a part of this because I know y'all care, and y'all are getting better. I've never had one guy ask me, how do I get into the next league? Or they're like, okay, so what if I do this? What's the reason for it? I mean, y'all are awesome, and we just need to keep growing, plateau a little bit, get really good at it, master it, then start growing again. And then not necessarily plateau, but get really good at that, and then implement some more stuff. And, those habits will get better. Your vision mechanics will get better. And, you're going to be real credible with the coaches, your assigners, your crewmates, and then just be a good dude. I mean, show up and take care of the umpire.
Here. Well, thanks, Joel. Thanks, everybody. Next week, Mike Besner's coming on, and he's going to talk goal line with us. So tell your friends. We'll see you next week.